republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Guns, self-defense, concealed carry. This is the Patriot Defense Podcast. From the war room in Idaho's high desert, here's your host, Todd Echols.
And I am back once again. It is Sunday afternoon, and I'm tucked away in the war room somewhere in the high desert of southern Idaho. And it is just me today. I couldn't get anyone else to answer the phone, but that's okay. I can do this show. It's my show. I've done it a few times by myself. I will just start out by saying I didn't do a podcast last weekend, and the reason why was I actually got sick. I got some nasty cold. I don't know. I mean, you're probably thinking, oh, man, you got the COVID. I don't know. I didn't go get tested. I'm not going to get tested. I am over it. I'm healthy. But unfortunately, I have this nagging cough, and it was actually a lot worse last weekend. And there was like just no way I couldn't talk for 30 seconds without coughing and hacking and dying. So I opted not to do the podcast. I am doing it today, obviously. I do still have this cough. That you'll hear me kind of try to fight off a little bit, try to avoid. It may come up. So what I've done today is it might be a shorter episode. I am getting better though, if that makes anyone feel good out there. But I am going to be clip heavy. I've got a lot of audio clips that I will play and comment on. And so we'll just kind of go from there and see how the show goes. I just didn't want to, I hate going a week without a show, and I'm definitely not going to go 2 weeks without a show. So, man, that's not making for a good podcast. I apologize, coughing like that. So because I got sick, I did have to cancel a handful of classes, and that's okay. I'd rather be safe than sorry. And so I'm trying to think. I did have one class that actually took place, and I always like to talk about something that come up in class, whether it be a training issue or just something, odd or unique that kind of shows up in class. And I do want to talk about this. When you go out and you do shooting of any kind, whether you're sighting in your rifle, whether you're shooting shotgun, whether you're shooting your handguns, we always need to remember that we have to wear our PPE. PPE is personal protective equipment, okay? And when it comes to shooting, you're talking about eye protection and ear protection. Now, you want to use good quality safety glasses. Then you may look at your sunglasses. A lot of times if you go online and you start looking up your sunglasses are actually going to be okay, and they will qualify. Most eyewear, excuse me. I told you guys I was going to cough, but most eyewear nowadays is actually made, and it is safety rated. Just get online and check your stuff out. So let's talk about that. Good quality eye protection and good quality ear protection. Now, I've never had any problem with anyone wanting to wear these items during class, right? But I did have a class, and I had the student class, and they asked me, they go, is it really necessary if I wear ear protection? And this was a younger student, right? This isn't, maybe someone who's half deaf. I actually had some deaf people in class, and they couldn't hear anything. In fact, they had to read lips. So I did not require them to wear ear protection, but this question caught me off guard. I'm like, no, you have to wear ear protection. Well, I'm not going to, if I have to defend myself with my gun, I'm not going to have ear protection on. So why do I have to wear it now? And I'm like, first of all, you signed a little waiver that said you'd wear all the proper safety equipment. Second of all, value your ears. I've spent lots and lots of time, many, many years in a duck blind, and I have damaged my ears, and I have to have ear protection on when I'm shooting. I just do. Now, in a self-defense scenario, it's probably not going to happen, right? But those are, hopefully I've never actually have to fire my gun in self-defense. Sorry about that. There goes my voice. Fire my gun in self-defense. I haven't had to so far. Knock on wood. if that time comes, then it is what it is, man. But I do want to say, though, if you're going to go out and you're going to shoot, you've got to wear your hearing protection and your safety glasses. I was just a little taken back by that question, and I'm like, yeah, don't start ruining. Well, all that's going to happen is my ears are going to ring. That's what the student said. All that's going to happen is my ears are going to ring. I said, yeah, and you're going to be miserable, and it's really hard on your hearing. And to this day, I've abused my hearing so much in the past that if I even go to a concert, I have to wear ear protection at a concert, and my ears will ring for days, to the point of I love going to concerts. I love music. I love going to concerts. I love doing that. Me and my wife, we both enjoy it. I'm to the point now that even with ear protection, my ears still ring at a concert, and I'm to the point now where I'm just almost writing that off, right? You don't understand what a big part your hearing plays in your life. And, you can get things like tinnitus. You can lose your hearing. I mean, absolutely horrible. Your safety gear, your eyes and your ears, very, very important when you're shooting. And I would encourage everybody to wear ear protection. So let's talk about the government, right? We don't talk about the government enough in this show, but you always have to pay attention to the government. And we have so much going on right now with the pandemic. We have so much going on with COVID and just everything that's happening right now. And you might say to yourself, well, they're ignoring gun control. They wanted gun control. Why aren't they talking about gun control? You know what? They may not be flat out, obviously talking about it, but it's still there. It's there in the background. And we talk about this all the time on this show and all the time on the radio show that I do. It's always there. And they will shove it into, whatever bills they can, oh man, my poor throat. Whatever, I better hurry up and get to this audio clip, but they'll shove it into whatever bills they get the chance to, and they'll stick it here, they will stick it there. They're going to get you from the left, the right, I mean, the top, the bottom, you name it, it's coming at you, and they have not forgot about it yet. And they have not forgot about it. You're just not hearing about it, but that's when you need to be worried the most. If you're not hearing about it, what are they drawing your attention to? And then what are they doing over here that you're not paying attention to? That's what you need to remember. So let's talk about gun registration and gun bans. It's a very real thing. Look at everything that's going on in Australia right now with the with COVID and the requiring the vaccination, all this stuff. Why do you think Australia is getting ran around like they are? Well, because they have no way to be able to defend themselves. And there's lots of other countries that have gone through this. There's countries like Cuba, right? They used to be armed up, right? Well, they came in, they took the firearms, and now those people, they can't do anything. They depend on the government for food. They can't fight back. They can't rise up. They can do absolutely nothing. So let's listen to a little clip here. Why I give my poor throat a little break, but we'll go ahead and play this real quick.
In 1997, Australia confiscated 650,000 guns. That wasn't voluntary. It was mandatory.
A gun buyback that forced law-abiding citizens to surrender their firearms in a nationwide roundup and meltdown of all semi-automatic firearms and pump-action rifles and shotguns. 640,000 ordinary conventional firearms confiscated and destroyed.
I mean, it was 40 years of collecting, and I can't say it any other way than that. I felt sick. I had to hand them in because if I didn't, I was going to jail.
40 years of collecting. I mean, I saw the video. You're just listening to the audio, and this gentleman's like 40 years of collecting firearms, handguns, rifles, you name it. I'm sure he had some pieces that were worth a ton of money. And just like that, a signature on a paper, something came down from the government that said, we're confiscating those, and it's not voluntary. This is mandatory. That's government theft. Of course, they steal from us in many other ways. That's government theft. They didn't reimburse them. They just pretty much said, you give me those or you are going to go to jail.
There's no ifs or buts about that. By taking that gun away from me, they've stolen something from me.
A right stolen by their government, promising safety in return for its gun ban.
Oh, and let's not forget about Cuba, shall we?
This is a really good comment, and I wanna talk about a little bit of Cuban history related to this, okay? Because 62 years ago, Cuba was just as free as America was. We used to have the right to have weapons. We were just like America, okay? Fidel came along, and as soon as he took power, the first thing he did was to take account of every weapon that there was in the country and who it belonged to. Once he finished that task and he had a complete data of every single bullet and gun that there was in the country, he went ahead and impounded for the people, leaving an entire country without arms. Only the army has weapons in Cuba, and that's why the people don't do anything.
And literally in 2019, New Zealand instituted a buyback that if you didn't comply with it, you'd go to jail for up to 5 years. What are you talking about, Steve? You're full of it.
New Zealand will ban all military-style semi-automatic weapons. We will also ban all assault rifles. We will ban all high-capacity magazines.
And here's more of that dramatic New Zealand plan, an amnesty for folks to hand in all military-style semi-automatic weapons and a ban on parts to convert guns into semi-automatics and all high-capacity magazines. But perhaps the most impactful part, Savannah, is how quickly this law will come into force by April 11th, 3 weeks from now.
We talk a lot about...
So there you go. I mean, it's very possible. I mean, I think there'd be an all-out war. I don't think the people are going to sit down and take it. But, you know, they try this, they try that. They try to ease into it. Who's to say someday they don't just mandatory turn in your guns? Turn in your guns or else. Turn in your guns or you're going to go to prison. Turn in your guns or whatever. I mean, if you look at them, you know, depending on what you believe and then the news that you look at, they're trying to control the food supply. They're trying to get everyone vaccinated. Why couldn't they come in and take the guns? Why couldn't they say you can't? I mean, they want us vaccinated so badly for some reason. Why couldn't they come in and say, you want your guns? Okay, you got to get vaccinated. Right? That's the only way you can keep your guns. Why wouldn't they do that? We need to pay attention to this, folks. It's out there. It's a real thing. And, you know, you look at different countries. You look at Canada right now. Canada wants to ban airsoft guns. Airsoft guns, people. They want to ban airsoft guns. You know, those guns that shoot the little tiny BBs. I've got four G19X airsoft guns. They fire little plastic BBs. I use them for training. I don't even fire the BBs out of them. But those would be banned. They would ban airsoft guns. Poor Canada. Poor Canada. But here's that clip.
There is no need for military-style assault weapons anywhere in this country.
With the federal government moving ahead with Bill C-21, which will ban the sale, use, and importation of more than 1,500 makes and models of assault-style weapons. The airsoft community uses low-power guns that fire lightweight plastic pellets to play organized games. It is now finding itself in the government's crosshairs.
The short story for the community is it likely means the end of airsoft as a sport.
Replica air guns and many paintball guns will be banned under the bill because they fall under the new definition of replica firearms.
Almost all air guns, airsoft guns included, will be caught up by this change in definition of a replica because anything that resembles a firearm that is produced and licensed, so what most of us would call a real firearm, will become prohibited under this law.
So I've never been one to get into airsoft. I mean, I have these as training type guns. I use them as demo guns in classes and whatnot. I couldn't get into playing airsoft. It just wasn't my thing. But you know what? A lot of people really enjoy it. And here you go. You've got a harmless chunk of plastic. Where have we seen that? What it seems like we banned in the U.S. It seems like we banned other harmless chunks of plastic not too long ago. I think it was that guy that okayed it, the guy that did. Oh, that was Trump. It was Trump. Trump did it. Trump did it on the bump stocks. A harmless piece of plastic. And everyone that voted for Trump, not everyone, a lot of people that voted for Trump were like, man, yeah, go ahead and take that. Yeah, go ahead and take that. We Well, I'm okay with it. Trump says it's okay. It's okay. It's just a piece of plastic. I agree. It's a harmless piece of plastic. You know, use it or don't use it. They're dumb, right? It's stupid, but you gave an inch, you gave a little, and this is what they're going to do. You give an inch, you give a little, they're going to come, they're going to take your airsoft guns. They're going to take your ammo. They're going to regulate your ammo. They're going to take and regulate your magazines. Next thing you know, you're going to have a stupid shotgun. That's all that you're going to have. I mean, if that, right? And that's just because our current president, you know, old bumbling Biden, he says, all you need is a shotgun. All you need is a shotgun. AR-15s are too hard to shoot. They're too hard to aim. You need a shotgun. But I don't know, man. You don't give an inch. You don't give an inch because they will take a mile.
Essentially wiping out a hobby for thousands of people across Canada. Ken Cow owns Trigger Airsoft in Richmond. Cow estimates there are between 50 and 80 retail outlets across Canada that, like his business, strictly sell airsoft guns and accessories.
So that's why if the C21 are passed, the impact, the damage to us is gonna be the totally. So we definitely have to shut down the store. We have to find the other solution to make a living. 800 to 1,000 employees, they are going to lose their job.
But there you go. I mean, you know, Canada is really they have lots of restrictions on their firearms, what they can and can't own, that kind of thing. And now they're going after the freaking airsoft guns because people they're doing mass shootings with airsoft guns. I mean, haven't you seen those news stories? You haven't seen them? You know what? I haven't either. They're a freaking toy. Are they going to go after water pistols next? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. What kind of world are we living in nowadays? I mean, it's, you know, when you have an airsoft gun that's offending somebody, an airsoft gun. Absolutely ridiculous. You know, I will say the only use I get out of the airsoft gun is they are very good training tools. They really are very good training tools. I bought them as a training tool. It uses demo in classes. And I bought a bunch of BBs too because I thought I'd use them for that. I haven't used them at all with the plastic BBs. But man, you stick that CO2 powered, you know, the magazine in there, the green gas, I guess, mag in there, and you can simulate exactly what that firearm's going to do. And they are great to use for first-time shooters. Ease them into a little bit of recoil. Ease them into a little bit of noise. Probably one of the best tools that I have ever bought for my class. Perfect. But there you go. So they're going to come after your guns. They're going to come after your airsoft guns if you're in Canada. And here we give them chunks of plastic too. We give up our bump stocks. And if we're not careful, we're going to be just down to shotguns. But if you look back, there's so many countries that have different types of gun control laws and really restrictive gun control laws. But guess what? More often than not, those don't work. Let's check out Russia, for example.
When the subject of mass shootings come up, people like to hyper-focus on the U.S. like it doesn't ever happen in any other countries. Well, this just happened in Russia.
24, we are following breaking news out of Russia. At least 8 people are dead and more are hurt after a gunman opened fire at Perm State University. Well, the suspect has been detained. It's believed they use a so-called traumatic firearm. It's designed to fire non-lethal rubber or plastic projectiles, but can be modified to fire other ammunition as well.
Keep in mind, Russia has strict gun ownership laws where applicants for a firearm license have to pass a psychological exam and own a smoothbore shotgun for a trial period before obtaining a non-semi-automatic rifle, because no one can own a semi-automatic rifle in Russia. Pistol ownership is even more strict and largely limited to retiring military officers who are given a pistol as an award for their service. Not to mention, every gun has to be registered. I always say that when politicians in the anti-gun lobby say they just want common sense gun control measures, it's because they'll always use that after every tragedy to push more gun control. It's clear that Russia gun laws are more restrictive than the US gun laws, but does anyone want to take a guess what the response to this mass shooting is going to be? If you said even tighter gun laws, you've clearly been paying attention. Just a few months ago, Russia had another mass shooting where a 19-year-old shooter used a hunting shotgun to kill 9 people and injure 23.
With a gunman lurking outside their classroom, students crouched in sheer terror behind their desks, not knowing what would come next. The horror began with a 19-year-old armed with a hunting rifle walking slowly but purposefully to Kazan School number 175. In the background, you can hear screams and gunshots as children and staff make a frantic rush for safety. These incredible pictures taken by kids shows how some escaped down ladders once rescuers arrived. But much of the video from this day of bloody classrooms or of children jumping from third-floor windows is too disturbing to show. 7 students, 4 boys and 3 girls, most in grade 8, were killed, as were 2 teachers.
After this shooting, and in 2018, there was a school shooting where the gunman killed 19 people with the same type of hunting shotgun.
At least 19 people have been killed and dozens more wounded in a shooting at a college in Russian-annexed Crimea.
Well, Mark, a student identified as 18-year-old went through the college in the city of Kerch on Wednesday carrying a firearm and then began shooting at fellow students. Officials said the 4th-year student later killed himself in the college library.
Here you have 3 recent mass shootings where all the shooters used some type of shotgun, and our current president swears up and down that no one needs an AR-15, that we should just all buy shotguns.
You don't need an AR-15. It's harder to aim, it's harder to use, and in fact, you don't need 30 rounds to protect yourself. Buy a shotgun.
Now I ask this question. Let's say we take on the same gun laws as Russia and we had several mass shootings where the shooters used shotguns. What do you think Biden and the anti-gun lobby's response will be? Do you really think they'll say, well, we already have common sense gun laws, so we're just gonna let your gun rights be? Or are they going to say the laws we have are not enough, and if it just saves one more life, we need more common sense gun laws? No matter how many gun control laws we have, wicked people are going to find a way to kill, and the anti-gun lobby and their bought and paid for politicians will always say we need more gun control to stop it. People have short memories, so they know you'll forget that they said the same thing last time, and each time they'll take more and more of your rights until you don't have any left. There will never come a point where they say, sorry, we were wrong, we're gonna give you back your rights. The government is a black hole when it comes to your rights. Once you give them up, you never get them back because there's no incentive for the government to give them back, because the more rights we give up, the more power they have. Stop letting them shame you and manipulate your emotions to give up your rights. We all want shootings to stop. But it's clear as day that more gun control laws are not the answer and will only leave you more vulnerable to not only criminals, but to the oppression of a government who no longer fears their citizens.
There you go. There you go. I mean, you know, we people concentrate on America, on the U.S., for all their mass shootings. We need more gun control laws. How come is it that, honestly, if I had him poking around, I love Colion Noir's stuff. And you'll hear me play a lot of his stuff. You know, credit to him, and he does great stuff. He does half my work for me. I'm sure he doesn't mind if I talk about it and share his stuff. That's why it's on YouTube. But you know, I wouldn't have heard about these Russian mass shootings. Why don't you hear about them? Why are they hard? Why are they hard to find? Why are they hard to come by? Oh, I don't know, because the same gun control laws that they have enacted in Russia, that they want to enact here, don't freaking work. People will find a way. It's not the gun, it's the person. People will find a way. Gun control laws. We have over 300 gun laws, gun control type laws on the books. And I mean, it doesn't work. And you want to enact more. You want to get the kind that Russia has. Those don't work, obviously. They're never going to work. I think, and I didn't look hard enough to find the articles, but I think it was a couple weeks ago alone, there was like 2 or 3 shootings back east in schools that you heard nothing about. I don't have the details, but they were small shootings. And even here in Idaho, I think it was earlier on in last school year, there was a shooting. Someone took a gun to school in the little town of Rigby, Idaho, just up the road from me. And there, the teachers found the gun, stopped the student, that kind of stuff. But the same school, another student took a gun there a couple weeks ago. They were able to find the gun before bad stuff happened and whatnot. But I mean, You can have all the laws in the world, man. It's not going to stop this. It's not going to stop this. We got to figure something out. But the gun control laws, people are going to be evil. That's all there is to it. And you look at places like Russia, where you can't hardly even own a firearm, maybe a shotgun. And what happens? They still have these shootings. And yet our president says, get a shotgun, get a shotgun, get a shotgun. That's what you need. Get a shotgun. You're not smart enough to handle an AR-15. Get a shotgun. Bunch of tools, man. Just a bunch of tools. So as my voice is starting to go, as you can kind of hear it starting to get crackly, I'm over here hydrating while the clips are playing. Let's talk about one more thing. Let's talk about the gun company that I love to hate. Okay, it's Sig Sauer. So I really right now I'm kind of in love with the Sig P365 XL, and I'm sure the X is absolutely fantastic as well. And if I had the money to go buy a gun, I'd go pick one of those up right away. That'd probably be the next gun that I bought. Other than that, Sigs are I'm kind of an HK guy. It seems like I shy away from all the guns that have a huge fan base, right? That's just me. I've always been that way. But we've heard for the last few years now about the Sig Sauer, the Sig P320, the gun that likes to go off on its own. I've got a really horrible, dry report that I'd like to talk about, and I apologize for being so dry, but it talks about Sig P320s, and it talks about all the I don't know, they call them the gun just goes off by itself. I don't know, but it talks about how the law enforcement agencies are all suing Sig because of it, and he kind of goes in and chats about it a little bit, and I've got some things to comment on that, and we'll play this, and I'll jump in where I need to be. Sorry, it's kind of a dry, almost computer-generated type voice, but I'll play it anyway, and we'll finish out the podcast.
In what should have been just another day in his near 50-year career in law enforcement, Bob Northrup was on patrol at a high school baseball game when he heard the unmistakable sound of a gunshot. Within seconds, Northrup realized the bullet had come from his own service weapon, a Sig Sauer P320 handgun. And it had hit him in his left ankle. "I looked around thinking, I might have just been shot," Northrup said. "When I went to take a step after hearing that shot, I was unable to do so. Some folks out of the bleachers came over to my assistance and helped me over to a place to sit down." Northrup is no novice gunman. He's spent the last 18 years as a Tampa Police Department Reserve officer, following 30 years of full-time service with the department. Yet his gun had gone off that night in February 2020 in his holster, when his hand just brushed it as he clipped his keys to his belt, according to a lawsuit he filed against Sig Sauer. In fact, nearly 30 law enforcement officials have had their Sig service weapons fire without them pulling the trigger, sometimes injuring themselves or others.
I find it interesting, and I'm not picking on law. I mean, I guess I kind of am a little bit, right? Most of these lawsuits that you're hearing, most of these problems about these guns going off they happen with law enforcement. Why is that? Why is that? Could they be, I don't know, lacking in training? Stay tuned. We'll find out.
The lawsuit alleges. In Pennsylvania, a state trooper firearms instructor even killed another officer in 2015 when his gun went off while he was conducting safety training, according to the suit.
Okay, so there you go. A law enforcement safety instructor or whatever it was killed another officer when his gun went off while he was instructing safety training. Okay, so let's fall back here. Let's fall back on firearm safety rules. Okay, there's 4 of them. Do you remember what they are? Okay, no one's raising their hand. I got no takers. I'm going to go ahead and go down the list. So, treat every firearm like it is loaded, even if you know it is unloaded. Never point the gun at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire the gun. And always know your target and what is beyond. So let's ignore that last one. Well, not ignore it. Let's just kind of eliminate the last one. Let's focus on the first 3. Let's look at the first one again. Treat every firearm like it is loaded, even if you know it is unloaded, which means what? Well, if you look at the second rule, it is don't point the gun at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy, even if you know the gun is unloaded. So if an officer got shot with a gun because the gun just went off, if that officer had been the officer that was handling the firearm that went off and killed the other officer, if that officer was obeying the safety rules, if he had kept it pointed in a safe direction, that when it went off, no one would have been killed. And I'm not saying that officer was the reason the gun went off, but come on, man. You can't, it's not all Sig's fault, okay? Be safe. That's why we keep our guns pointed in a safe direction, not at people. Not at people. Point it in a safe direction. Point it down range. That way, if something does happen, nobody gets hurt.
Since then, several police departments have discontinued use of the P320. Bottom line, it's a public safety issue, Northrop's attorney Nicholas Gurney told Vice News. Based on what we've learned and uncovered and alleged, this firearm, make and model, by design is capable of firing when the trigger isn't pulled.
This gets good now. So stay on the edge of your seat. This is when it gets good.
Sig Sauer specifically markets its guns to law enforcement teams and has become a prominent supplier for police across the country, including large departments like Dallas, Cincinnati, and Tampa, as well as smaller, more rural ones in states like Georgia, Connecticut, and New Jersey. In 2018, the company even started making a special edition thin blue line P320 pistol. Sig also has multi-million-dollar contracts to provide the Army and Marines with variations of the handgun. The gun's popularity comes from its accuracy, ergonomic design, and lightweight trigger, experts told Vice News. But making a trigger more sensitive, and thus easier to pull, can have its downsides. My sister bought one, and she had 3 accidental discharges the first time we took it to the range, Steve Howard.
My sister bought one, and she had 3 accidental discharges the first time she took it to the range. Tell her to keep her damn finger off the trigger. Because honestly, if you have a gun right there and it's sitting on the table and you're not touching it, and that gun just fires on its own, guess what? It doesn't get a chance to accidentally fire 2 more times. So what that tells me is that gun didn't fire on its own. It fired when what? When what? Someone didn't follow one of the safety rules. And that is keep your damn finger off the trigger until you want to fire the gun. If that gun was just sitting on the table, no one was touching it, and it goes bang, you go, oh shit, the gun just fired. No one was even touching it. You pick the gun up, you unload it, you document it, you get a hold of the gun manufacturer, and you say, we got a serious problem. But I guarantee you, if the gun accidentally went off 3 times the first time you go out to shoot it, and you keep, oh, bang, it goes, oh man, you're shooting, bang, oh, your finger was on the freaking trigger, because you don't just watch a gun go off 3 times by itself without your finger on the damn trigger, okay? Your finger was on the trigger. Someone pressed the trigger when they weren't supposed to. Someone wasn't obeying one of the safety rules.
A Michigan-based gunsmithing and weapons expert and former federal police officer with the Department of Defense told Vice News. They're the most goddamn unsafe thing on the planet. Anything touches that trigger, and it goes.
I think his sister's the most goddamn unsafe thing on the planet. Her finger was on the trigger. She fired the gun 3 times, right? She had an ND 3 times the first time she took the gun out. Why? Because she didn't follow the freaking safety rules. Obviously, it's right there, people.
He added. When someone goes to stuff the thing in their holster and their shirt hits the trigger.
When someone goes to stuff the thing in their holster and their shirt hits the trigger, why the hell is your shirt hitting your trigger when you're reholstering your gun? Maybe you need someone to teach you how to freaking reholster your gun. Your shirt shouldn't be in the holster. You should clear your cover garment, your shirt, your clothing, your jacket, whatever the hell you want to call it. You should clear that from your holster before you reholster the gun. Then nothing gets caught up in the freaking trigger. I don't care if it's a 1-pound trigger or an 8-pound trigger. So I'm losing my voice. or an 8-pound trigger. You get clothing in there and you reholster with your clothing in there, the gun's going to fire. I don't care if it's a high point. I don't care if it's a Sig. I don't care if it's a Smith & Wesson. It's going to fire.
That's all it takes. In a video cited,
all it takes is for that trigger to depress and that gun goes bang.
In the lawsuit and published by Omaha Outdoor in August 2017, tests of several models of the P320 line show the trigger can be pushed in when the pistol is dropped with the handle facing down.
So that is a problem, okay? I will admit that is a problem. Why are you dropping your damn gun? Don't drop your gun. I've been handling guns for many years, and I've yet to drop one, okay? But yeah, if you just flat out drop the gun and it hits the ground and goes bang, that is a problem. That right there is a problem. I will admit that.
The lawsuit alleges that can also happen with any kind of inertial force, like a tap or a bump. Sig Sauer did not respond to multiple attempts for comment. In company literature such as the weapons user
But then again, if you're out the gun in a holster and you just tap it or bump it and it goes off, or it's laying on the table and you bump the table and the gun goes off, you quit shooting that gun. You go, there's something seriously freaking wrong here, and you quit firing the gun. You don't just keep on with your shooting session and let it happen 2 more times, because that's just ignorant. That's just asinine. That's just stupid, right? So I don't think that's what's happened with that woman. I believe what happened with that woman is she depressed the damn trigger and she wasn't supposed to. Honestly. I mean, if she has having that much of a problem with the trigger, go buy yourself a Smith & Wesson Shield, a first gen. Problem solved right there. Shitty trigger, no discharges.
Manual. However, Sig faults the weapon's apparent malfunctions to careless and improper handling. Mechanical safeties are designed to augment and not replace safe handling practices, a warning included in the weapons manual reads.
I agree with Sig. Safe firearm handling practices. And that guy before that talked about his freaking sister, and he's a firearms gunsmith, national level military, I don't know what the frick he was, but all his little name labels, he doesn't know how to handle a freaking firearm, and he obviously didn't teach his sister well either.
Northrop isn't the only law enforcement official to go after the gun giant for accidental discharges. In February, a former Marine and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent filed a $10 million lawsuit against the gun manufacturer after his holstered P320 discharged into his leg. The gun manufacturer has yet to respond to the suit.
So that is a problem. Your gun's in the holster, it just goes off. Was there a piece of clothing tucked in there? I think I read on this one, I don't think there was. So that is a problem. Look into that.
In June, a Cambridge, Massachusetts police officer filed a civil suit in federal court after his service weapon fired on its own while in a SWAT team van with 6 other officers. No one was injured during the incident. Sig Sauer.
That again is a problem. I'm going to reinstate this. I'm not giving Sig an out, but I'm just saying there's times when it's concerning and times when it's like you're an idiot. You didn't deserve that, but you're an idiot, and you need to reassess your handling of firearms.
Sauer filed to have the case dismissed this month and argued that the pistol has been tested thoroughly and meets or exceeds all relevant safety standards. And the dangers of the P320 models purchased by law enforcement agencies around the country and issues to men and women in his line of work make him deeply concerned.
Thanks for watching.
So there you go. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that except for, I don't know. I think you got I think there is probably a problem with the Sig P320, but I think there's a lot of mishandling of the firearms, making for negligent discharges. There's never any accidents, right? Unless the gun, I guess, is just going off by itself, lonely, locked in a room, loaded, sitting on a table by itself, and it just goes bang. I don't know, man. Someone was negligent, right? Maybe it's Sig Sawyer. I don't know. But I think there's a lot of mishandling, right? And I'm not picking, I say that, but I guess maybe I am a little bit. Law enforcement is great. I have got friends who are in law enforcement, obviously. They're great. But you know what? Not every one of them is a gun person. Not every one of them is a gun person. In fact, I've had ex-law enforcement in my classes. I've had ex-military in my, vets in my classes. And I'm going to say that sometimes they are, in fact, when they're in there, I tend to watch them a little bit more because they can be unsafe. They do some interesting things. So just because you're military, just because you're law enforcement, doesn't mean you're a gun person. You go out and qualify the 2 or 3 times a year that you have to qualify, and a lot of them don't shoot. They don't pick up their guns, nothing like that, and so they don't handle them. They aren't a gun person. So stuff can happen, okay? Just because you're law enforcement or military doesn't mean you're an expert with a firearm. It doesn't mean that, but people think it does. I just find it interesting that, and I mean, maybe there are, and I wouldn't mind seeing some stories. I'm not saying there's not, none that caught my eye, but in this audio clip, I'm just find it interesting that it all is concerned with law enforcement and the Sig P320 and the lawsuits there. Where are the civilian lawsuits? If the gun's that bad, where are the civilian lawsuits? Or are most civilians better trained and better at practicing firearm safety than law enforcement? Could that be a thing? It could be a thing. Is it a thing all the time? Maybe not, but it might be a little bit of a thing. Something to think about. But there you go. I am, as you can tell, I'm getting excited and I am losing my voice very rapidly. And I do apologize for the short podcast. I will get on and do another one this weekend for sure. Maybe before, if I can scratch my voice, out of from dying, and get on here. But I want to thank you guys all for listening. I want to thank you for listening. Share it with your family, your friends. Share it on social media. I didn't do a YouTube live video for this. The audio portion will jump up there. Probably today or tomorrow, tonight or tomorrow, whenever I get this thing uploaded. But I was out of town yesterday, climbing mountains, what I normally do. And anyhow, I'm just in a pretty rough shape. I didn't feel like firing up the camera today anyhow. So there you go. Share it with your family, share it with your friends. You can find the audio podcast portion of this. You can find it on Stitcher. You can find it on iTunes. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it anywhere that you find podcasts. You can find this. Again, if you got a comment, if you got a question, you can call me. You can text me, area code 620-794-6223. It's area code 620-794-6223. Get out and enjoy the range. Enjoy some time on the range. Winter is coming, and right now the weather is absolutely beautiful for time spent on the range. It's a beautiful time to be outside, shooting, enjoying the weather before it turns on us. Winter is right around the corner. And just for all my Patreon members, and I will put it, if you do want to join Patreon, go check it out. I'll leave you a link in the show notes. But just for the Patreon members, I promised you guys videos and stuff. Honest, I got sick. I can't do a video when I'm hacking, coughing. I've got them laid out. I just got to find some time where my voice is going to hold up and get them done. Fingers crossed that's this week. Just have faith in me, and I will get them out to you. I really appreciate it. And I tell you what, I will see you guys next weekend. Thanks. Bye.